Good day everyone, welcome back again to my virtual classroom. For today's video, I'm going to be discussing with you the characteristics, the strength, and weaknesses of qualitative research. So let's start. So the characteristics of qualitative research according to Muahan, Cristobal de la Cruz, and Kilman Cataldo of 2012. One of the characteristics is naturalistic inquiry. What does it mean? So it attempts to study things, people, and events in their natural setting as they unfold naturally in a non-manipulative and non-controlling environment. So naturalistic means whatever is there, whatever is the natural setting, so you don't have to uh, change or alter the setting. Okay, so qualitative research has its own share of course, strength and weaknesses. So just like other methods of research, so we have different strength and weaknesses, which I will be discussing later. So another characteristics of qualitative research is that it's humanistic. It focuses on the personal, subjective, and experiential basis of knowledge and practices, capturing an understanding of the human experience and gaining a better understanding of people's thoughts, attitudes, and behavior. So when we speak of humanistic, of course, it talks about personal, it's more of subjective, it's more of experiences, it's more of practices, and it's more of understanding human behavior and experiences. So it's humanistic. Okay, and another characteristics. So we have holistic perspective, interpretive, reflexivity. So let's take first holistic perspective. So when we speak of holistic perspective, its purpose is to paint the larger picture by seeking the meaning of behaviors and ways of doing things in each context. So holistic means looking at the bigger picture, okay, and looking at the meaning of the actions, the processes, the way of doing things in the context. So it's holistic perspective. So when we speak of interpretive, characteristics of qualitative research is that it aims to explain what they see and hear in a specific context rather than to merely describe them. If quantitative research usually describe, we have descriptive method of research and quantitative type. In qualitative, it's more of explaining what you saw, explaining what you experience, explaining what you hear. So it's interpretive from the word interpret. Okay, and then we have reflexivity. So when we speak of reflexivity, so it means that data interpretation depends on the researcher's theoretical presupposition, background, and purpose of doing the research. So it's reflexive. Okay, it's reflexive. When we speak of reflexivity, it's more of looking at the foreground or the background and the purpose of why you do this particular research. So reflexive. Another characteristics of qualitative research is that it's an ongoing data analysis. So what does that mean? Data analysis does not take place at the end of the completion of the research process. It is continuous until it reaches the point where no new information is discovered on the key themes. Okay, so we come to up when we speak of no new information is discovered on the key themes means it reached saturation already. So you'll understand this in the event of discussing the different types of qualitative research. And then of course we have flexibility. It focuses on discovery and understanding, which means that the research can change at any stage and in turn may change the course of the research process. So sometimes in the course of the process, sometimes you have to change, okay, because sometimes the findings really um, does not really gives you the findings that the research is supposed to give. But since this is research, so you have to adjust on the previous steps that you have done already. So which means that you can change at any stage, because research is cyclical. Okay, so in turn you may change the course of the research process, specifically if the uncontrolled factors happen. Okay, so it's flexible. So flexibility, qualitative research is flexible. Then, another characteristics is iterative process. So, ibig sabihin nito, data collection and analysis simultaneously occur with a continuous update of the already collected data. I will repeat. So, iterative process, data collection and analysis simultaneously occur with a continuous update of the already collected data. So, it means that there is being in a point of the research that you emphasize something, okay, in the data collection and the analysis. Okay, so it's iterative uh, process. Another one is Another characteristics is emergent design. So what does this mean? That the research process changes at every stage of the research due to data collection, alteration of the research problem, and or difference in the methods being used in the research. So emergent design means uh, there are some changes at every stage of the research. Maybe because of the factors of data collection, okay, alteration of the research problem, or there is difference in the methods being used in the research. Another one is purposeful selection of participants. That means that selection of participant does not follow the random selection. Okay, participants are randomly selected but in a purposive manner, using only those who can provide the richest insights in the phenomenon of interest, which increases its accuracy. Which means that you will not be getting participants which I think cannot contribute in your research. So say for example, your research is more of the principal's perception, school head's perception. So that means you're going to get the participants who are school head. So there's a certain characteristic. So that's why it's called purposive. Okay, I hope you understand this characteristic. So purposeful selection of participants. And of course, as I've told you a while ago, qualitative research has its own share of uh, strengths and weaknesses. Just like other methods of research, the strengths far outweigh the weaknesses, of course, since qualitative research goes to the very depth of human behavior or human experience that is or which cannot be explained with mere numbers or statistical treatment. So I'll repeat. So there's some point that qualitative research cannot be qualitative research is different from quantitative, because there are some things that the qualitative can explain while without using the numbers or statistical treatment. So let's take first the strength by according to Cristobal and De La Cruz. Okay, so number one is that one of the strengths, it requires few respondents and their categories of meaning are collected as raw data. Unlike quantitative research, so it requires many respondents. But for qualitative research, it only requires few respondents. Okay? So, or participants. Another one is Another strength is that it is useful for describing complex phenomenon. Okay, it is useful in describing complex phenomenon. It means that since this is thematic and this is more of words, this is more of observation, so you can describe complex phenomena. and the phenomena can be examined in detail and in depth since they are situated and embedded in local context. So you can use in strength interviews which are not structured or not restricted to specific questions, unlike in quantitative research. So you can alter the questions, but this even though you alter the questions, but then this focuses on the real research problem. So researchers can guide or redirect the interview in real time. So since some answers are unexpected, so if your participants answer unexpectedly, so there's a possibility that you can change in real time your questions. Okay, kumbaga nagsasanga-sanga. Sometimes when you ask them, tapos nagsasanga-sanga ang sagot. Okay? It provides individual case information. Cross-case comparison and analysis are possible. Okay, so you can compare uh, cases. Okay, it provides an understanding and description of people's experience of phenomena since qualitative research nga also deals with lived experiences. Okay, people experiences and dynamic processes such as documenting sequential patterns and change can be studied, and it can determine how respondents or participants interpret constructs. So it means that in summary, or if you're going to generalize everything, so qualitative research can offer, take note, can offer the best light on or best answer to certain phenomena, whether it's social, economical, political, or even psychological, because we deal with people's behavior and experiences also. Research results are exhaustive, even underlying meaning surface, because it requires in-depth examination. It offers several avenues to understand phenomena, as I mentioned, behavior, human conditions, and the like. And lastly, it can build on or even develop theories through consistent themes, categories, relationship, interrelationship that are crystallized during the data gathering and data analysis process. So that sums up the strength of the qualitative research. So if there are strengths, of course, there are also weaknesses. Or what are the weaknesses of qualitative research? So the so-called weaknesses of qualitative research will not affect the serious researcher who is willing to invest in any amount of time or resources in this endeavor. Okay, there are only things that we have also to note when it comes to the weaknesses, but it will not affect the serious researchers who is willing to invest in any amount of time. So the knowledge produced, one of the weaknesses, the knowledge produced might not apply to other people or other settings. It can't be generalized to the whole population. Since we are only choosing few participants, so it cannot be generalized to the whole population sometimes. Okay? And it is not as well understood and accepted within the scientific community, specifically the scientific researches or even the quantitative research, because it it talks about numbers, standards. Okay, so another weakness, it is more difficult to maintain, assess, and demonstrate the inflexibility of the data, because nga in time, especially if you are gathering data, sometimes in real time you will change the course of the questions, as I mentioned a while ago. Another weakness is that the researcher's presence during data gathering can affect the respondent's response. Unlike in quantitative research that they're answering only paper or questionnaire, but here the researcher's presence, because during the gathering of information, of course, you're gonna be engaging into focus group discussion, interview, uh, key informants, response. So sometimes it affects the respondent's response. Unlike if there's no research but they're only answering a paper. Okay, anonymity and confidentiality can be an issue when presenting findings. So it means that quantitative predictions are difficult to make. Okay, yeah, that's one of the weaknesses. Unlike in quantitative, you can predict outcome because you have a certain formula. Okay, it is more difficult to test hypotheses and theories with large sample size. Okay, so it's more time is needed in data collection. Yes, it's true. And then data analysis requires intense concentration and full immersion in the data. So you really have to check on the data. Okay? And the results are more easily influenced by the researcher's personal biases, experiences, and principles. Because as we compare the qualitative research from the quantitative research, sabi natin, it's subjective. Qualitative research is subjective rather than objective. Because quantitative research, since quantitative research has measure, it uses numbers, so it's objective. While the qualitative research is subjective, since this the results can be influenced by the researcher's personal experiences or principles or biases. So those are the weaknesses of the qualitative research. So in summary, so maybe total immersion in the natural setting of the research can be time consuming, okay, and tedious, and resource draining as well. Okay, because you're gonna be observing, gonna be interviewing. Okay, so you are immersing in the natural setting. So there comes a point when the personal self and the researcher self, personal and the researcher self are inseparable already. Subjectivity on the part of the researcher can happen. So to prevent this, according to Locke, 1987, stressed that from the beginning of the study, the researcher must identify his or her personal values, assumptions, and biases. As what I mentioned the last time, that data, the results are more easily influenced by the researcher's personal bias and experience. So the solution from this is, from the beginning of the study, the researcher must identify his or her personal values, assumptions, and biases. So that is the one of the weaknesses of uh, the qualitative research. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you learned something for today, and you understand the characteristics, and you also understand the strength and the weaknesses of the qualitative research. So before I go, I hope you subscribe to this channel so you can be updated with the videos that are gonna be posting. So thank you so much for listening, and see you again. Thank you so much.